This is Up for Debate, episode number 205, recorded April 22nd, 2021. Summer Book Club. Hello, everybody. Welcome to this episode of Up for Debate, the debate podcast where the two hosts agree on everything. I'm Sean Jennings, joined by everyone's favorite ferocious reader, Matt Mariani. Hello, Matt.
Ferocious?
Ferocious.
I think you mean voracious?
What did I say?
Ferocious? Like ferocious? Which...
Isn't that's the same thing, isn't it?
I don't think it's a word. I could be wrong.
Ferocious?
Precocious?
Oh, voracious.
Voracious.
Ferocious.
Ferocious. I was going to say a ferocious raptor, but it's not. It's a velociraptor. I don't know. Voracious is a fun word. It's making me think I got to use it more. My vocabulary.
Yes, there's voracious and voracious, but there's no ferocious.
And loquacious.
And ferocious, as you mentioned. So, yeah, that was... Thank you, spellchecker.net, for that information.
Well, I'm happy to be here, Mr. Sean. How are you doing today? I'm sorry I came across as a grammar Nazi, and we've only been on here for 1 minute.
You book-reading son of a bitch.
I've already ruined the episode.
You hoity-toity coastal elite with your big words and your fancy hats.
I am all of that. And I do have many fancy hats, so... Not enough. I don't really think you can have enough fancy hats. Is that true?
I don't know. If anyone would tell us, Cam Newton could.
That's right.
Or Pharrell, maybe.
Oh, yes. I've always wanted one of those Pharrell.
The big Pharrell hats?
The one that makes him look like a sheriff, like a really cool sheriff.
Now I have to Google what a Pharrell hat...
It was like a Mountie hat, kind of like a Canadian
everything.
Hat.
Oh my God! There's everything you need to know about Pharrell's hat. It's a vintage Vivienne Westwood hat. It's an English fashion designer, and yeah, it doesn't say where you can buy it, though.
Oh, you can get pictures of it on Etsy. I thought they were selling the hat on Etsy, but no. Oh, wait, no, they are selling the hat. Okay. Yeah, you can get it on Etsy for $55, $56. Huh.
Do you want to know what happened to that hat?
What happened to Pharrell's hat? Did he auction it off somewhere?
It was bought by Arby's.
Like the restaurant Arby's?
Yes, for $44,000.
For what purpose?
To benefit charity. I think it's because their logo is like a hat.
Oh, and there can be only one. It was that kind of a scenario. So they bought the hats,
I think
no one could ever wear it. That makes sense.
Yes.
Oh, Arby's. I love their Twitter. Do you go on Arby's? It's not actually Arby's Twitter. It's like it's called like Nihilist Arby's or something.
Yeah.
That's one of the.
Yeah, that's an old one.
Yes,
that's a classic.
That is a vintage Twitter. Yeah, from back in the day. Nowadays, all the corporations are coming out with like the sarcastic, you know what I mean, like the sentient responses that make them seem like they're people.
Well, the new thing is depressed accounts. Have you seen this?
Oh,
this is because they started with sort of funny, and then they went to like sarcastic and kind of meta fourth wall breaking, and now they're all depressed and sad.
Yeah.
And they like comfort each other. It's weird.
And self-deprecating, some good self-deprecating.
Well, no, because it'll be like McDonald's will tweet like, "Ugh, don't want to get out of bed this morning," and then like Arby's will comment like, "Hey man, are you okay?" Like,
what is that?
It's like this. Like, I don't get it. I work in social media. I don't get it.
I guess it would make sense if they said like, "Don't want to get out of bed this morning without new McGriddle from only $3." Or like they're just.
But I don't even necessarily have a problem with the initial post. What I have a problem is when like 4 or 5 completely unrelated brands
they kind of jump in. Yeah.
Because it'll be like KitchenAid mixers will be like, "We're here for you." You know, it's like I'm like, what? How do you people know each other?
What is happening? Yeah, they all just meet at the like functions or whatever. I don't know. It makes me think, like, when we were at the Maris Archive Twitter, maybe we could have reached out to Vassar and started a conversation, and we would have gotten.
Yeah, we could have had a flirty romance with Little Debbie or something. I don't know. How much fun would that have been?
That would have been a time. That would have been certainly would have given us stuff to write about instead of Maris stuff. But
speaking of things to write about, Matt.
Yeah, good segue.
We have got books. The book club is back after our wild success 2 years ago. We didn't do one last year, did we?
No, there was a lot going on, although it would have been a pretty good year for a book club because there was not really much else to do.
A lot of free time.
I don't know. It's kind of weird that we didn't do one last year.
See, now I got to go and look at what we were doing 1 year ago. Because I'm sure we were. I think this time of year we were doing Rocky.
Oh, okay.
And Rocky ran so long.
Did. That was a whole year ago already.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's the thing is traditionally this time of year we do movies because we did Bond around this time, we did Rocky around this time, and then basically it was Rocky all the way through Shantember. It took us through most of the summer.
Wow. Yeah.
A lot of movies.
Okay, so that's what we were up to.
And that's why, Matt, this summer we're reading the novelization of Rocky.
Okay.
I'm assuming there is one. I don't even know.
Sort of want to. There is, it's like it is based on a book. Obviously, didn't do too well. The book, not the movie, but
that's right. Sylvester Stallone wrote the book because he wrote the script.
Hey, yo.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So for those who didn't join our last book club, the way it worked is Matt and I each brought a handful of books we wanted to discuss, and then I was going to pick one of Matt's books we were going to read, and Matt was going to pick one of the books I was going to read. Last time around, Matt, we read two great books, One Summer by Bill Bryson, which was my pick, and The Wind-Up Bird Chronicle, which was your pick. Still one of my favorite books, a fantastic read. So I'm excited for what we're going to come up with this summer.
Yeah, and I still remember reading One Summer. It's interesting because things will happen that were referenced in the book. Like I was reading an article recently that just happened to reference the fight, the boxing match that was talked about in the. In One Summer, right? The knockout. And of course, flagpole sitting. I actually didn't really know that much about it until reading the book. And yeah, so things will just come up that'll constantly make me think about One Summer again.
Yeah,
and I ended up reading, I think, all of your recommendations at one point or another.
You did.
I did. Just because I like to read, and I usually have a lot of time in the summer to read. So,
well, and what's great is, Matt, I bought all of your picks as well and never read any of them.
Oh,
they were just sitting on my bookshelf. To be fair, one of them was Gotham, which is about 1,000 pages. I don't know why I bought it. It looks big and smart on my bookshelf, but
yes.
I will never read it.
What will happen is when people visit back, like once things are normal again, and you're able to have people visiting your house, they'll see that on your bookshelf and they'll go like, "Wow!" Though they won't. I don't think they'll say like, "Oh, have you read this?" But they'll see it and they'll internalize it and they'll be like, "This man must be very smart to read a 4,000-page book about the history of New York City and the surrounding area."
Looks like this guy books a lot.
This guy books. This guy totally.
He books hard.
There's also the sequel, Gotham 2, which is almost as long, but only somehow covers like 20 years.
Yeah, that was it. This year I'm going to learn my lesson and actually buy the books I plan to get around to reading. Not that there's anything wrong with them. I'm not quite as voracious of a reader as you are. But Matt, I've got 4 books.
And I've got 4 books.
Awesome. So, do we want to go through one host's entire thing, or would you want to alternate?
I think the alternating works. That's
okay.
I'm
now,
down for.
My books have an accidental theme.
Okay.
I wasn't planning on there being a theme, but I picked 4 books whose authors' names are James, John, Jeff, and Jim. So that is my theme, and I'll volunteer to go first here. I have all 4 physical books here with me because I refuse to read digital books. And my first book, Matt, they're all nonfiction, unfortunately. I don't read a lot of fiction.
Sean, all of my books are fiction. So,
oh, this is perfect. Right. So we're going to get a little one of each. So we're going to learn about some stuff. This is a book I've read several times over the years. I enjoy the story a lot, mainly because it's my interest. It's by James B. Stewart, who also wrote Den of Thieves, which is another great book. He's a wonderful author. This is his book, Disney War. Disney War. It's a thick book. It's a quality read, but it basically charts the Disney Corporation during its most successful and tumultuous period, starting with the hiring of Michael Eisner in the late 80s, all the way through the Disney decade of the 90s, and in through his tumultuous firing in the mid-2000s. All the salacious details, all the stories behind the movies, the theme parks, the business, a cast of characters who you couldn't make up. It's a really interesting read. It is very personality-based. Not business-based, which I like. You don't focus too much on stock prices and numbers, but it really does tell a cool narrative story of Michael Eisner and a few other folks, Jeffrey Katzenberg, Frank Wells, folks who came into the Disney company at a time when it was really struggling, almost sold, and they turned it around and then crashed it right into the ground. So an interesting read. If you're a fan of Disney or business, I recommend James B. Stewart's Disney War, available now at your local library.
Okay.
Is that a topic that interests you, Matt?
It actually very much is. I discovered I think you're the one that told me about this YouTube channel, Defunctland TV.
Defunctland.
Yeah. So, and they have a podcast also that's actually really good. So the wife and I love the YouTube channel. And so this actually, a lot of things, they covered the Euro Disney debacle.
Absolutely.
And,
huge in here.
Yep. And the rise of Eisner. Yeah, it's
Disney's international expansion, yes. the California Adventure, MGM Studios, all of those sort of big things that happened. The rise of animation, the Disney Renaissance, as they called it. All those things.
So that actually will pair well with another book that I have, which is an autobiography of Walt Disney. It's like his life.
Oh, wonderful!
So it could be like, it's kind of like a Lord of the Rings in a way. If we add in a third Disney book, I don't know, the Mickey Wars, the Return of Mickey.
The Revenge of Mickey.
Yes. Goofy's Revenge.
Yeah. So. That is your book number
Excellent.
1.
Well, that's already very high on my list. So I think that's I'm gonna open a tab here so I can keep track of.
Like I said, I have read this several times, and it is dense, just in size. So I always get something new out of it every time I read it. So even if you don't pick it for the show, I definitely would give it a shot. I think you'd like it.
Adding it to my Goodreads.
There you go.
It's a done deal. I have not been doing very good reading. I'm 6 books behind schedule. This is what it's telling me. It's yelling at me. So that was the Disney War, right?
Disney War by James B. Stewart.
Okay. Oh, wait, what? The Pirates and the Mouse, Disney's War Against the Underground. They fought the mouse, and the mouse eventually won, but it was a battle that left everyone bloodied. What
the hell is that?
It's about a cartoonist. And it is a very long description. That's what came up when I typed in Disney War. Let's try that again. Take 2. Okay, there it is. Want to read. James B. Stewart, right?
Not James A. Stewart. James B. Stewart.
B-side. All right. Good pick, Sean. I think that'll be, that's a promising one. That is a promising one indeed. my first pick is, like I said, all of my books on here are collections of nonfiction. The first pick here is a kind of an oldie but a goodie, I guess you could say. It is what is called a classic by many. It's written by Thomas Mann. Back in 1929, he wrote a book by the name of The Magic Mountain.
And that's not about Disney.
It is not. It is not about Disney.
Okay.
Which would be kind of interesting if it was, but it's not. It's the description is, with this dazzlingly rich novel of ideas, Thomas Mann rose to the front ranks of the great modern novelists, winning the Nobel Prize in Literature in 1929. The Magic Mountain takes place in an exclusive tuberculosis sanatorium in the Swiss Alps, a community devoted to sickness that serves as a fictional microcosm for Europe in the days before the First World War. To this hermetic and otherworldly realm comes Hans Kostorp, an ordinary young man who arrives for a short visit and ends up staying for 7 years. During the time, he succumbs to both the lure of Eros and to the intoxication of ideas. A monumental work of erudition and irony, sexual tension, and intellectual ferment, The Magic Mountain is an endurable classic for the ages, Sean.
Okay, you lost me at tuberculosis sanatorium. So you got sell me on this.
So
Matt.
How about you pretend, instead of him being at a tuberculosis sanatorium, pretend like he's in a fancy hotel or spa in the Swiss Alps, and he's
okay. Now I'm just thinking of James Bond.
Yeah. Pretend like he's like a.
Is Telly Savalas there?
Sure, maybe. I actually have never read this book, so I don't know.
You picked a book you haven't read?
I've been on many book forums, and this book came up quite a bit as a classic. And I figured maybe if you read it, I'll read it, and we can compare notes about it. I don't know. I swear, a lot of people love this book, and they think it's like it should be taught in school. Yeah. So.
There's another line in this Wikipedia article on the book that just really endears me to it, really makes me want to read it. It is widely considered to be one of the most influential works of 20th century German literature. Sounds great.
There you go. Influential. And we all know, 1920s Germany, very influential place. A lot of ideas going around there, for sure.
Okay.
It's called The Magic Mountain. I don't endorse anything that's the contents of the book. Like I said, I've never read it, but it sounds promising. And that was my first pick. Swing and a miss.
No, I don't think. No, hey, look, I was skeptical of the Wind-Up Bird Chronicle. That was a wacky pick. So
yeah. Well, I will say that I have read the other books on my list, on my pick. So this was the only one I hadn't read, and I just wanted to throw it out there. So, but it is a lot like, I guess, suggesting like Don Quixote or something. It is a classic read. We haven't really ventured into that territory here because we're not an 11th grade AP literature class. So
yeah, I do feel like if I read this, I should get some kind of college credit.
Well, we'll talk to
Matt.
Board. Yeah.
There is I think I pulled this bit the last time we did it, and I'm going to resurrect it, reading Amazon reviews of the books we're discussing. This review from someone in the United Kingdom, I found it quite slow, but soldiered on, and was just beginning to quite enjoy it when two of the main characters spent many, many pages speaking to each other in French. I stopped at this point. Okay.
All right.
Really great.
If anything, it'll teach you, another language, I guess.
And this Dodie Hunt, this book was on my grandson's wish list, and he couldn't wait to start reading it. Lady, your grandson is a dork.
I wonder if this is like a book that people troll other people with, where they're like, "Oh, this is a great book."
I'm sure it's 720 pages.
That's got some meat. That is a meaty book. Yikes. Okay. I'm sure they have versions out there.
An audiobook, perhaps?
Oh, that's where I've heard of Thomas Mann. He wrote Dr. Faustus.
Of course.
You know, like Faustian
obviously.
Opera? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, where like the Faustian bargain is like where the man makes the deal with the devil. Very famous.
Matt, I think instead we should read his less famous book. No, I'm excited. I just like to shit on stuff because it's fun. But no, hey, maybe we will read the I don't know what my other three choices are yet.
That's
so the Magic Mountain, Thomas Mann. All right, good first pick, Matt. But I'm going to pivot to something a little more fun. Matt, we famously did a series on a book called Long Bomb, which was about the XFL. We're obviously big fans of the XFL, and it was an enjoyable read. But throughout that, we talked about another famous, short-lived football league, the USFL, which existed for 3 seasons in the mid-'80s in America. A league that was a smashing success until it wasn't. And so I present to you Jeff Perlman's Football for a Buck, inside the crazy rise and crazier demise of the USFL. It's a very fun book. I think if we read this, it'll be interesting to compare and contrast it to the XFL. And some of the things the XFL learned from the USFL and some of the things they probably should have taken from it that would have made it more successful. A lot of crazy 80s stories in here of very poor. Unlike the XFL, they actually had franchise owners of each team, many of which didn't have that much money. And so the teams had no budget, barely were able to put teams together. But the fans loved it, gosh darn it. And it started to be a success until one man brought down the entire league. His name, young upstart businessman Donald J. Trump. That's the downside if we pick this book, is we do have to talk about Donald Trump, but only as a piece of shit 80s businessman.
Well, I saw the 30 for 30. That was not...
Yes, small potatoes.
Small potatoes, yes, which is why I knew, as you were ramping up, I knew the villain behind the bring down of the USFL. Ultimately, I don't fully understand how, like, I know he brought it down, but I don't 100%. Was it because he wanted to not pay the players more money or something? What was the deal behind it?
Yeah, the short version of the story is that Donald Trump wanted to own an NFL team, but he wasn't rich enough to own an NFL team. So what he did was he begrudgingly bought a USFL team. Now, the USFL, part of the reason it could have really succeeded is because when the league started, they knew that if they tried to outgun each other for player contracts, everything was going to get more and more expensive until the league folded. So they had tight budget controls, and that actually kept the league financially stable. Essentially salary cap, before there was a salary cap. What Donald Trump decided to do was say, screw that, I want an NFL team, so we're going to beat the NFL. And he went crazy, as we put the league in a very bad financial situation. Then, he decided spring football wasn't good enough. He wanted to move to the fall to compete with the NFL. Bad idea, because the NFL is very popular. Then, he decided to sue the NFL, claiming they had a monopoly, an unfair monopoly on football. And he used all of the league's resources to fund this lawsuit.
Okay.
And the best part, and this was kind of the climactic ending of the Small Potatoes documentary, was that the USFL actually won that lawsuit against the NFL. The NFL was declared a monopoly. But, and Donald Trump's plan was if they beat him, the NFL would then merge with them and he'd get an NFL team for cheap. What ended up happening is they were paid $1 in damages, the USFL was, and they immediately folded afterwards.
Gotcha. Okay, so now I'm up to speed here.
Yes.
I'm back up to speed with the deal. Okay.
A fascinating ragtag group of individuals who were taken over by a greedy businessman and driven into the ground. It is a great story, and it's told well by Jeff Perlman in this book.
Okay. Yeah, interesting. I like the story that it seems like it's going for. Do you think it has any kind of like a unique take, or does the author seem to have skin in the game? Is I guess what I'm saying. Like, was he involved in the activities and the events of or is he like more of like a historian?
Good question. So Jeff Perlman, he's actually a sports journalist, a sports writer. He wrote a book called Three Ring Circus about Kobe, Shaq, Phil, and the Lakers. He also wrote a book about Showtime, Magic, Kareem, and that Lakers dynasty. So he's written a number of sports books, but he was a USFL fan as a kid, and so though he has no personal connection, it is a passion.
Okay. I think that, as long as you could bring passion to the story, I think that, this could be good. It's, we'd say about the same length as the Long Bomb, maybe a little longer.
I'd say it's about the same size. Okay. I'd say it's about the same size.
All right.
It's a really easy read.
Yeah, I'm definitely interested. It's called
Football for a Buck. Football for a Buck.
Oh, Football for a Buck.
Football for a Buck.
Yes.
A reference to how they would actually sell tickets to games for $1. And Matt, you don't have to take my word for it. Sean P. Steinberg on Amazon Customer Reviews says, this book should have a label on it describing it correctly as a Trump-bashing book by an author with a serious problem with the president. I read most of the book on Audible from a drive from Sacramento to Portland. I basically gave up on the book about halfway through it, and thanks to Audible's return policy, my suffering was short-lived. If you want a book from a narrow-minded man with Trump derangement syndrome, then this is the book for you. Otherwise, skip it. It's not about the USFL at all. I disagree, especially because I believe this book was published before Trump was president, though I'd have to confirm that.
I'm looking at it now. It's it looks like it was published in...
Was it 2019? That can't be right. That has to be let me see when the hardcover was first
September
published.
11th, 2018.
Okay, so I guess I was wrong. It seems like so long ago.
I was reading a similar review from Glenn on Goodreads, who gave it 2 stars and said, I was a pretty big fan of the USFL back in the day. I think I still might have some Oakland Invaders paraphernalia somewhere.
Yeah.
There's some interesting facts contained in the book. The narrative of a plucky, unlucky league trying to compete with the Goliath NFL, but it soon collapses into anti-Trump diatribe. The first half isn't bad. After that, you might as well just turn on MSNBC.
Well, that's what's funny, because halfway through the book is when Donald Trump buys a team. So, it's like, I don't really disagree with that, but
I feel like it's also
whatever.
really hard to paint a good picture of Donald Trump, even in this story alone. Like, if you just take out the presidency and everything, in this story where he buys a team and completely bankrupts the league with his decisions, how can you turn that into a story about him being a hero?
If we chose this book and talked about it on the show, we would pretend Donald Trump never did anything after the 80s. Like, we would literally just say it is 80s businessman Donald Trump and has nothing to do with anything else in his life, because that alone is an interesting story.
Yeah, and I think it's also really hard to justify, I think, a lot of the decisions that were made by him in this book as an owner. And this could be interesting. He is kind of a villain of this one, so I like that, because I guess Long Bomb didn't really have many villains. I mean, I guess Vince McMahon was his own villain.
Vince McMahon, Jesse Ventura. I think what's interesting, and the book does have a hero of sorts, which is the owner of the Houston Bandits. Probably one of the most remembered teams of the league, and I would have to try to find that. Or no, I'm sorry, they were the Tampa Bay Bandits. Yes, and their owner, John Bassett, was the outspoken sort of unofficial leader of the league. Who really had good ideas and really could have led it to success, and really was the one who fought most with Trump. So,
okay, So we got our own hero and villain here.
It's an interesting story. We may read Football for a Buck, but you'll have to tune in to find out. Matt, how about a book from you?
Yeah, so I'm going to pick one that fits our aesthetic and fits our theme, since you just did one that I think goes with.
I'm waiting for you to pick like the Bible.
Yes, that's what our we always do. We always close with a Bible segment. That's something we do here on Up for Debate every week. So no, we're going to do Sean. What is a long-standing and much beloved series that we have done on this show?
Harry Potter.
No, I don't think the words Harry or Potter have ever been said, as far as I know.
Though it would be a hoot to read that series.
Sean.
Shame.
Although, yeah, we could probably put it on the list, just down the line. That would be interesting. I'm thinking, of course, of James Bond, Sean.
Ding 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 ding.
As you know, the novelizations of James Bond have been with us for probably like a century now. Actually, yeah, almost a century.
I'm dying to hear which movie you picked.
So, Sean, I actually figured I was leaning more toward one or the other, but I figured you'd want to start at the very beginning with Casino Royale.
Casino Royale. I knew it. I knew that was the one you were going to pick.
The other choice I had was Live and Let Die, which is only interesting because it's quite remarkably very racist. But other than that, not all that great of a novel. But it's very much an icon of its time. We shall say. But Casino Royale, classic James Bond author Ian Fleming at his very best, some might say. The 00 goes on adventures. I can't really do it justice, so that's why I'm going to look up the description of it from everyone's favorite. How about from the man himself, IanFleming.com? In the novel that introduced James Bond to the world, Ian Fleming's Agent 007 is dispatched to a French casino in Royale les Eaux. His mission? Bankrupt a ruthless Russian agent who's been on a bad luck streak at the Baccarat table. One of Smersh's most deadly operatives, a man only known as Le Chiffre, has been a prime target of the British Secret Service for years. If Bond can wipe out his bankroll, Le Chiffre will likely be retired by his paymasters in Moscow. But what if the cards won't cooperate? After a brutal night at the gaming tables, Bond soon finds himself dodging would-be assassins, fighting off nightmarish torturers, and going all in to save the life of his beautiful female counterpart, Vesper Lynd. Taut, tense, and effortlessly stylish, Ian Fleming's inaugural James Bond adventure has all the hallmarks that made the series a touchstone for generations to come.
Wow. And Matt, as Henry on Amazon writes, started reading this and was wondering when James Bond is going to show up. After some 50, 60 pages, I realized this is not even Casino Royale. It is Tender is the Night by F. Scott Fitzgerald. And by then, my return window had closed, so I couldn't return it. Scam.
That itself was its own little adventure. What a twist.
How long do you read a James Bond novel and be like, when's James Bond showing up?
Wait a minute, this is War and Peace.
No, Matt, this is exciting. This is a good
James
pick.
Bond,
this is exciting.
We live in exciting times. Oh wait, no, I'm reading Johnny Tremaine.
Wait, this is just a highlights magazine for kids. How did I make that mistake?
Beekeeping for dummies. What is this? Oh.
No, apparently, believe it or not, actually, there are a lot of one-star reviews. Apparently, the digital version, someone uploaded to Amazon, like, a bad scam. Like, there actually is, like, a scam going on with the digital version of this book, where it's, like, only half the pages, and,
Oh, interesting.
There's actually a problem with it, so that guy wasn't alone in being screwed up. I just thought it read very funny.
I wasn't ready for that. I thought he had some kind of complaint, like, oh, this whole time I realized this book was garbage. But no, he had a legitimate gripe, I guess. He was given the wrong book. Yeah, I got a couple of negative reviews here. Some interesting facts that we learn in this book. James Bond smokes 70 cigarettes a day. James Bond loves his car. James Bond loves to sleep naked. This is the first James Bond novel, and it's a doozy.
I can see that quote on the back cover. It's a doozy.
Yeah. This person wrote a really long review that I'm not going to read, but they gave it a 1 star, so clearly they had a lot of issues with it. But the next one is a 5-star review, and it just says Bond, James Bond, and it's right underneath this like
enough said.
Yeah, it's like 27 paragraph about why they hated the book. It says Bond, James
2
Bond.
words, James Bond. 2 words, sexy ladies.
Yeah,
you got it.
That's basically.
That's awesome.
So that is my pick. My second pick of the evening, Casino Royale.
Love it. That's awesome. Very cool. Very happy about that. All right, Matt. I got another nonfiction for you. More true life stories that are hard to believe. Now, what's great about this pick, Matt, is you'll be happy to know this is a Don't Panic Platinum pick, which means myself, Colby, and Dan have all read the book and all recommend it. So you've got some good talent behind it. Matt, are you familiar with the name of Elizabeth Holmes?
That would have to be, let's see, I know Enola Holmes is Sherlock's sister. So Elizabeth is maybe his cousin? Something like that?
Unrelated. How about Theranos? Do you know the name Theranos?
Oh, yeah. He snapped, and then half the people disappeared.
No. The big purple guy?
Yeah.
Looks a lot like Josh Brolin? Yeah. No, Matt. I'm talking about the tech startup company Theranos, led by Elizabeth Holmes.
Is this The Inventor? The documentary?
Yes, this is. Yes, have you seen the documentary?
I have not, but I have. It has been on my list for a very long time.
Well, Matt, this is the book the documentary is based on, called Bad Blood, Secrets and Lies in a Silicon Valley Startup by John Carreyrou, and he's the one who actually broke the story for the Wall Street Journal and is the authority on it and actually based the documentary on this book. Matt, I'll just read the back of the book very quickly here. In 2014, Theranos founder and CEO Elizabeth Holmes was widely seen as the next Steve Jobs, a brilliant Stanford dropout whose startup Unicorn promised to revolutionize the medical industry with its breakthrough device which performed the whole range of laboratory tests from a single drop of blood. Company was valued at more than $9 billion. There's just one problem. The technology didn't work. Erroneous results put patients in danger, leading to misdiagnosis and unnecessary treatments. All the while, Holmes and her partner worked to silence anyone who voiced misgivings, from journalists to their own employees. One of those stories you wouldn't believe if you didn't know it was true. The book reads very well, obviously more in-depth than the documentary. Also, by the way, being turned into a scripted series for Hulu, miniseries. But it is a really great look at tech startups, at medical startups, and a really great look at what people blinded by money will do to avoid confronting truths like the technology doesn't work. A really wonderful book. And a bonus, Matt, if we pick this book, we can also watch the documentary and talk about it.
Yeah, that's true. And I have been meaning to watch the documentary for a while.
And the documentary is very good, I will say. I have watched it, and it is very good.
I'm reading reviews to try to get even more hype. You did a very good job hyping the book, but I want to get even more hype ingested into me. And the one of the reviews I'm reading here on Goodreads is I don't read a lot of page turners. I often find myself unable to put a book down, but they're not the kinds of books that would keep most people glued to their chairs. Still, I recently found myself reading a book so compelling that I couldn't turn away. Bad Blood, Secrets and Lies in a Silicon Valley Startup by John Carreyrou details the rise and fall of Theranos. By 2013, Theranos, it gives you the person goes on to give a bit of a backstory about Theranos and concludes the review by saying it's a real fun read, full of bizarre details that will make you gasp out loud. The story almost feels too ridiculous to be real at points. No wonder Hollywood is already planning to turn it into a movie. And I think it's the perfect book to read by fire this winter. That review was posted back in December of 2018 and was posted by none other than Bill Gates. The Bill Gates posted that review.
Wow.
So,
wow. Wow.
Of course, I had to go to the comments of people who commented, and one of them, the top comment here, is, your reviews motivate people to read any book, and then a little goat emoji.
He is the greatest of all time. Matt, just like Bill Gates, Ann C. Armstrong on Amazon said, her review says, I didn't buy this product. So, take that for 1 star.
1 star. Okay.
1 star. I didn't buy this product.
Does that mean she paid for something else like the other guy and got swindled? Are there a bunch of ebook swindlers out there that are delivering incorrect books?
What I'm hoping is Anne has written like 1 billion reviews on every product she's never bought, just so everyone's really clear.
I did buy this. I did buy this. 5 stars.
Yes, the one product. I don't want him to be confused. I did buy it.
What a bot.
Yeah, so there you go. Bad Blood, a nice and popular book if you're into that sort of thing.
Yeah, I'm definitely into it. And so far you've got 3 real good picks here. It's going to be a really tough one.
Well, Matt, we got to hear what your third is. I'm excited. What do you got?
So my third one here, third pick of the day, is a book that I read last summer.
Mm-hmm.
It is by I'm not sure if you're familiar with him. He's a writer. He wrote for Deadspin for a really long time, and then he got fired from Deadspin, and he now has his own company called Defector. His name's Drew McGarry. Are you familiar with him?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So he was like a sports wrote like mainly football, predominantly football related stuff. But then he had a dispute with Deadspin over I think they told him to stick to writing real stuff, and he was mad about that. I followed him. I've been a fan of his since probably since early college, so I've read his stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But a book by him I read is called The Hike. So I read this book last summer. Like I said, I really, really enjoyed it. And I'm going to now pull up a description of it so that I can do it justice. When Ben, a suburban family man, takes a business trip to rural Pennsylvania, he decides to spend the afternoon before his dinner meeting on a short hike. Once he sets out into the woods behind his hotel, he quickly comes to realize that the path he has chosen cannot be given up easily. With no choice but to move forward, Ben finds himself falling deeper and deeper into a world of man-eating giants, bizarre demons, and colossal insects. On a quest of epic life-or-death proportions, Ben finds help in some of the most unexpected forms, including a profane crustacean and a variety of magical objects, tools, and potions. Desperate to return to his family, Ben is determined to track down the producer, the creator of the world in which he is being held hostage, and the only one who can free him from the path. At once bitingly funny and emotionally absorbing, McGarry's novel is a remarkably unique addition to the contemporary fantasy genre, one that draws as easily from the world of classic folk tales as it does from video games. In The Hike, McGarry takes readers on a daring odyssey away from our day-to-day grind and transports them into an enthralling world propelled by heart, imagination, and survival. That is The Hike by Drew McGarry.
Wow, interesting. Jacob Egan on Amazon says, I've read better on the back of a shampoo bottle.
Wow. Scathing.
So, yeah. And another book lover says, this from a guy who said the Eagles would suck this year. That was written the year they won the Super Bowl.
I was going to say they did suck last year, but yeah, the year he wrote it, it won the Super Bowl. Yeah.
No, very interesting, Matt. Very interesting. I'm not a huge. Yeah.
Lala on Goodreads gave it 2 stars and said, "This was quite possibly the weirdest shit I have ever read."
But she didn't like it. It was 2 stars.
Yeah, I guess it was weird in a bad way for her. I thought it was weird in a very good way. Because, all right, right underneath her, Lacey gave it 5 stars and said, "What on earth did I just read? This book was awesome in its sheer weirdness. 5 stars."
Well, Matt, I will say when it comes to fantasy, I don't like the high fantasy stuff, especially where, there are a million characters and a convoluted backstory and all this kind of stuff. So I'm curious if you would say this is more of a casual fantasy.
This is definitely more casual. If you know Drew McGarry, a high fantasy is probably not in his vocabulary. So this is very accessible. It's not like he crafts like like the Eldritch Gods of Numenon or whatever, where you have to read like the encyclopedia to get it. It is a very, very light fantasy. It is a very light adventure. There's definitely like more, I guess, themes to explore, both psychological and social behind it. I guess I haven't really had the time or the desire to do a deep dive of it, but I'm sure they're there. But it is not a high fantasy book at all, I would say, by any stretch. Definitely on the light side.
Well, this definitely sounds exciting. This may be a book I get regardless of whether we pick it to do on the show, because I am trying to get back into fiction more and try some different stuff, and this sounds like it might be interesting.
Yeah, I recommend it. And if you are looking for something to get you like back into the genre and get your feet wet, this is perfect for that, I will say.
Stellar. Very cool. The Hike. Nice pick, Matt. Matt, I've got my last book here, but I have to admit something.
Okay.
I gave you crap earlier in the show. I haven't read it yet. I bought it, and I haven't read it yet.
Maybe you picked another, like, 1920...
No. It's One Summer by Bill Bryson. I want to read it again. No, this is a book I bought, and I'm very excited to read. I just haven't had time to read it yet, so I can't guarantee its quality. It's from Jim Tankersley. It's called The Riches of This Land. The sort of tagline: after World War II, unsung Americans built the strongest middle class in human history. Then powerful men tore it apart. Here is the story of what went wrong and how to get it back. It is a nonfiction book talking about basically the history of the American middle class. It says, for nearly 2 centuries, the best jobs in the U.S. were walled off to everyone but white men. After World War II, women, immigrants, and black men began to tear those walls down. Blah, blah, blah. Middle class, blah, blah, blah. It basically talks about how the middle class was built, what happened to destroy it, and how it can potentially be built again. Jim Tankersley works for the New York Times. He's a fantastic writer if you've ever read any of his pieces with the Times. But this story is mostly told through anecdotes combined with research. It's not a long read, but it sort of begins in 1943 and follows all the way through to today. And it's supposed to be very good. But I haven't read it yet, so this is a gamble. Admittedly a gamble. The Riches of This Land.
Okay.
It would be one of our more political discussions of that we've had on the show before, but I think it could be interesting.
Oh, definitely. I can already tell based on the comments. Very, very well thought of. It's like very well regarded. I mean,
yeah.
Just from the length of what people have written about this book.
It's a thinker.
Yeah, very much of a scholarly suggestion. Yeah, I honestly I can't even find like a super bad or negative review
It is a new book. It literally came out in July. This is a very new book. It's just came out in soft cover. Yeah, in September it came out in paperback. So it's definitely very fresh, but it's also very timely. And this is what I get a lot of my book reviews from Twitter. Basically, smart people on Twitter recommend books, and then I buy them. And this was one a lot of folks were really hyping up even before it was launched. So could definitely be interesting.
I've heard of this somewhere. I wonder if I listened to an interview, maybe on a podcast with Jim Tankersley.
Yeah, I mean you can follow him on Twitter. I mean he does still work for the New York Times. And is a great reporter. So you've probably read one of his stories or heard about him from a colleague at some point online.
Yeah. All right. This.
Oh wait, hang on. The paperback comes out this September, so unfortunately you'd have to pony up for the hardcover or the digital book.
I would probably. I'm a big digital reader these days.
Okay.
That's why I don't have any of the books that I'm suggesting on hand. They're all on my Kindle. Should have brought the Kindle and I could have held it up, but. These days I've gone pretty much into the digital world with the books, just because I learned from moving all of my books that moving books is a huge pain in the ass.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
Cool. So that was The Riches of This Land. Matt, take us home. What's our final book of the evening?
Bringing it all back, this pick is one that is near and dear to my heart. It's another book that I read about a year ago or so, and it just became an instant classic to me. It's called The Remains of the Day, and it is by Kazuo Ishiguro. Now, Kazuo Ishiguro, you might know him, or you might have heard his name around recently because he just came out with another book. That I just dropped about a month ago or so. It's called Clara and the Sun, and it's getting a lot of press right now. Came out like a month ago.
Mm-hmm.
So he's been a writer for a long time, and he is not the same. He's not exactly the same as Haruki Murakami, who is the author of Wind Up Bird. Murakami is much more like fantastical, whereas Ishiguro is much more realistic. But I will read the plot, and it's a very, very short review. It says, in the summer of 1956, Stevens, a long-serving butler at Darlington Hall, decides to take a motoring trip through the West Country. The 6-day excursion becomes a journey into the past of Stevens and of England. A past that takes in fascism, 2 world wars, and an unrealized love between butler and housekeeper. So I happen to really, really enjoy this book. When I read it, it's very extremely well written, and I think it just puts you right into the shoes of this butler, this like really very well dressed, well kept, intelligent, but butler that's just really good at his job, I guess you could say. And without spoiling it too much, it really explores the line between duty and relationship, and serving one's purpose, and what one's purpose is in life, and what their station in life says about them, and how that impresses on them. Because he's a butler, but at the same time he's also like an artist, because he's so good at being a butler. He's got his craft down, and there's really something to be said for someone who is so committed to their job, right? And we think of a lowly butler, but he's just in many ways he actually, I think, overshadows the house owner, the master of this house, who is kind of like a disheveled and kind of a mess, and his life is kind of falling apart. but it's the relationship between the two that makes the book. I think it's a really amazing character study, but I won't say any more about it. It's The Remains of the Day by Kazuo Ishiguro.
That's awesome, Matt. I'll say Valerie on Amazon says, very hard to into.
Very hard to into. Sometimes I feel like sometimes my jar of peanut butter upstairs very hard to into sometimes.
And as Guillermina says, the letters of the book are very small, difficult to read. So keep that in mind. Now, Matt, did you know that this was made into a major motion picture?
I actually just learned that doing research. I think it was starring Anthony Hopkins.
Anthony Hopkins and Emma Thompson and Hugh Grant, and it was nominated for 8 Academy Awards, including Best Picture.
I have not seen the movie, so I can't attest to that.
Well, if we read the book, we got to watch the movie.
We do. That's what we do on Up for Debate. But an absolute treasure. I would say, I with confidence, with overwhelming confidence, that it's my favorite book that I've recommended tonight. One of my favorite books of all time, I will say.
Very interesting.
Yes, it's up there, very much up there with some of the other classics that we've read. One of my favorite books.
Man, this is going to be a tough decision.
Now we've got it's decision time, I guess, for us.
It is, Matt. Do you want to go first, or do you want me to go first?
Well, I think you should go first, only because I am a baby and I'm copping out, and also because you read your suggestions first. We'll go with that.
Okay, so Matt, can you wait? You want me to pick first, or you want me to pick first?
To pick first. I want you to do the hard.
Okay, so what were the 4? Remind me again. The 4 books you suggested.
So it was The Magic Mountain, Casino Royale, The Hike, and The Remains of the Day.
Okay, we're definitely not reading Magic Mountain.
I saw that. Yeah,
0% chance. That's okay, because the other 3 books are very hard for me to choose between. I give you credit, a great mix of books. I think the easy answer is Casino Royale, because I think it's an easy book to read, and I think we'll have stuff to talk about because we've seen the movies and we know the characters. I think, and The Hike is really interesting to me too, but I think we're going to get a better podcast, and I think a more interesting reading experience for me if we did The Remains of the Day, because there was the history element to it, there's the character and plot elements to it, and then we can also talk about the movie as well. So I'm going to choose The Remains of the Day, I think.
You made that look so easy. That was...
I'm excited. No, it was. It really wasn't. Honestly, I was really leaning towards Casino Royale, but I'm like, if we ever did do that, then I would want to read like 2 or 3 Bond books, or even some of the mix some of the early ones with some of the later ones that were written by other authors, and do more of a thing around it. So
I think that's wise, and also this could open up a can of worms like Murakami did, where I could recommend some of his other books.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I will say, for the record, I am adding The Hike to my cart, so I'm going to get that and read it as well. So great job tonight, Matt. Good picks.
You. And I guess that brings over to my picks, which I think I'm going in the same philosophy as you, Sean, where you said which kind of weighing which one would make the best podcast. And I will say I have added all of your books recommendations. All 5 have been added to my Goodreads want to read list. So I will hopefully get to read all of them at some point. But I think the one that would give us the best show and the best amount of discussion. Let's go through your picks one more time.
Yeah, absolutely. We started with Disney War, then Football for a Buck, then Bad Blood, and then lastly, The Riches of This Land.
Dang, Sean. These are some really...
Well, Matt, ones. Now you really do have me... You have me really thinking. It's only April. Like, we have the whole summer.
We do.
So we could do more than one. So I would say, Matt, pick one book now, knowing that we absolutely have the option to do more books later.
I like that. I like that idea, Sean. And I was really leaning toward Football for a Buck in the beginning because it does sound like a really good complement to our previous discussion of the XFL and the long bomb. But at the same time, with Bad Blood, you have the element of bringing in friends of the show, Colby and Dan, who have also read the book. So we could have like a group discussion.
So I told him on Monday's show, I said, this Thursday we're doing the book club, and I told them Bad Blood was one, and they were like, yeah, you guys got to do that one. Like, they were so psyched about it.
So that one's very strong. Personally, I'm definitely keen on Disney Wars 2. I just don't know how interesting the show might be focused on that. I will read it. I will say I'm going to read Disney Wars.
I think you'll like it a lot.
I am absolutely going to read it. But I guess it's between Bad Blood and the Football for a Buck. And I think I'm leaning a little toward Bad Blood. I think that's my pick. That'll probably be the first one. And then we can do Football for a Buck later as it gets closer to the football season wrapping up.
Yeah, if I had to pick one of these to do on the show, I would have picked Bad Blood, so I think you made a really good choice. I think once you read Disney War, if you're like, we got to talk about it, I'm always game. But it is dense, and there's a lot in there. It is a lot of inside baseball. I think Bad Blood, sort of the story of tech startups and the narrative and the sort of just the whole thing, and then we can watch the documentary. I think Bad Blood is a great choice, Matt. I think we'll have a lot of fun.
I think you made a great choice as well.
We got two very different books, which is exciting.
Yeah. So the choices the Remains of the Day and Bad Blood.
Excellent. Well, I'm Matt. I think we did a great job. Pat ourselves on the back for being great. So everyone, go out, buy your copies. And at some point in the future, we're not putting a hard date on it, but I would say at some point in by the end of May, we will do an episode on one of these two. Which one do you want to do first, Matt? Anyone you want to do first?
It doesn't really matter to me. I mean, whatever.
No,
whatever
me neither.
Floats your boat. I guess which one is shorter? Is that the way you want to play it? I know you're busy at work right now. So.
No, I don't think it's. Well, what is it? So, Amazon says 245 pages for Remains of the Day. Bad Blood is about 300. So, but they'll both read quickly. I don't think it.
Yeah. Maybe we schedule it around availability of Sean and Dan, or Colby and Dan, if they want to join.
Colby and Dan. So let's start with Remains of the Day.
Okay.
So then we have time to schedule Bad Blood later in the summer.
I'm sold on that idea. Yeah.
All right. So Remains of the Day, get the book, read it, watch the movie, and by the end of May, we'll do an episode on it because we need time to. Well, I need time to read it. You already know it, but that will be coming up. How exciting! Very cool, Matt.
Yeah.
This is great.
Make sure you collect those stamps on or stickers on your card, so you get your free personal pizza from Pizza Hut. Have we gotten one yet? Have we read 10 books on this show yet?
We have not read 10 books on the show yet.
All together?
No, we would have only read if it's more than 4, I'd be surprised.
But if you look at all the standalones we've read, like Devil in the White City. We read.
Oh, that's right. I forgot we were doing books for a while because we did Of Dice and Men and Console Wars.
The Long Bomb.
Wind Up Bird Chronicle, obviously, and
One Summer.
One Summer. Ready Player One.
Didn't you read The Witcher? You read the first.
Yes, we read The Witcher.
Book?
Yes, we did.
We're at 8.
And we got 2 more this summer. That'll take us to 10.
All right, we're gonna get our pizza. We'll get our free personal.
All right.
Pizza.
Yeah, we gotta get back to reading books. We were on a tear there for like a year where we did a bunch of. I forgot.
Yeah, I feel like we've read more. If you're a longtime listener and fan of the show at home,
tell us what books we've read.
And Let us know if there are 2 books out there that we read that we are not counting. I don't know. I feel like maybe there was more. But, yeah, good picks tonight. I'm definitely looking forward
Great
to
stuff.
reading.
Well, join us, not just for those, but all summer long, as we've got some great content coming up. You're not going to want to miss it. Please go to our website, upfordebate.tv. Check out all the episodes there. Please subscribe wherever you get podcasts. We're on every major platform. Not hard to find us with the video version on YouTube. And, of course, you can follow us at UpForDebateTV on Twitter or email us upfordebatetv@gmail.com. We're going to end it here. Go fill up your bookcases. Get excited for the summer. On behalf of Matt, I'm Sean. Thanks for being here. We'll see you next time on another edition of Up for Debate.